Hey you guys, welcome back to another art tip video. Today we're talking about using oil pastels. They're a lot of fun to use, but sometimes they can be really messy. So I wanted to share 5 easy tips when using oil pastels. Okay, before we get into the 5 tips, I wanted to share one thing with you. We got a box full of art supplies from Sakura, and we opened it up and they sent us a ton of oil pastels. They make the Crepe Paws brand, and I just found out that they are actually the ones that invented oil pastels. Now growing up, I only used Pastels. That was the only brand that I knew about. But after using these for a day, I fell in love with them and they're super awesome. There's really not much different between the two. But the one thing I did like more about the Crepe Paws is that they're a little more firm, and they don't melt as fast as the Pastels brand. Now, if you've used these oil pastels, you know what I'm talking about. They're extremely soft, and sometimes that's nice, but sometimes it just is annoying because you want them to last a little bit longer. Now, I also want to mention this isn't a paid advertisement by Sakura. They just sent us art supplies, and we're super grateful to them because we can never have enough art supplies, right? We always love getting more. So I want to put those off to the side. We're going to talk more about this brand in a later video. Now, there was one thing about these oil pastels that I didn't know about, so be sure to stay tuned for that. All right, let's get to the 5 awesome tips. Now, I'm going to use Crepe Paws for this lesson just for fun because I've been enjoying them a lot. We're going to use blue, and this is probably the most important tip. Now, when we're drawing, a lot of times we like to rest our palm down on the paper. Now I'm going to put some of the oil pastels down here just so I can show you an example. Now I am actually hovering my palm. I'm not resting it down on the paper. So if you can see or tell from this angle, you can see that my palm isn't touching the paper. Now I've noticed with my younger kids, I've talked to them about this, but they really like putting their palm down on the paper. And what happens is, I'll show you. If you're rubbing your palm across your paper when you're coloring like a different area, look at this. We've smeared the oil pastels that we've already put down. Now the second tip in using oil pastels is if the first one is too tricky, you can use a scratch piece of paper, and I've folded it in half so it's a little smaller, and you can place it over the colors that you've already put down on your paper. It'll protect your drawing while you color in a different area. Look at that, isn't that nice? So you can rest down, you can rub back and forth. It's not going to smear the colors underneath. Okay, so those are my 2 favorite tips, but this third one's actually pretty important too. So I have another sheet of scratch paper that I'll always keep next to my drawing. And a lot of times when we're showing our lessons, I have this off camera so you don't know that we actually do this. So I'm going to switch to a white oil pastel. You know what? Before I do that, I'm going to put a little patch of color over here so I can show you another benefit to this tip. So I have my white oil pastel, and we use white a lot to blend with, so I'm going to blend the blue. Now once I've used the white on top of the blue, you'll notice on the tip of my oil pastel I have a lot of blue pigments on there. Now this is going to mess it up if I come directly over to the yellow and want to blend the yellow. Look, I've got some blue in there and it's starting to turn green and it's starting to get gross. You'll notice we also have yellow and blue on our white oil pastel. So I'll switch over to my scratch paper and clean it off. Okay, so now we can come back to the yellow and use it for blending. And look at that, nice and smooth without getting gross blue pigment in there and turning it all muddy. Okay, so always remember to keep a scratch piece of paper next to your drawing when you're using oil pastels. Before I put this back, I'm going to clean it off. Okay, the 4th tip is oil pastels create shavings, and they can be extremely evil because if you leave them on your paper, sometimes they smear and you'll get these little marks on here. Also, if you blow them off onto your table, sometimes they get onto the carpet, they can stain your carpet or even stain your table. Now the tip is never blow the shavings off or brush them with your hand. I always take my drawing and I dump it into the trash. Now you can also use a scratch piece of paper to kind of try and ease those little shavings off without trying to make the marks on your paper. Now the 5th and final tip for using oil pastels is when you're all finished. When you're done with your drawing it's hard to protect them so that they don't smear or get ruined. So I buy a lot of these plastic protective sheets. And you can put your drawings inside of these, and then that'll keep them from getting smeared. And then the even cooler part about that is I buy the ones with the 3-ring holes, and I buy a 3-ring binder, and we put all of the drawings into a binder. And that way we can protect them and we can save them for later. Now you can see a lot of these are done with oil pastels, and they haven't smeared and they still look really nice. I hope you found these 5 tips extremely useful in using oil pastels, and we'll see you later, art friends. Goodbye.